On this week's Red Dead 2 o'clock. Red Dead wins big at the Golden Joystick Awards. How will Red Dead Online begin? And does Chapter 5 hint towards a new game from Rockstar? It's all here on this week's Red Dead 2 o'clock. Hello and welcome to this week's Red Dead 2 o'clock. My name is James, and this week on the show I am joined by Alex.
Hello.
Hello, Alex. So at the top of the show you would have heard we've got lots to talk about. We will be talking about Chapter 5 in detail, so if you haven't got there yet, we'll let you know when the spoilers are coming so you can go away and come back once you get to that point in the story. But first up, Alex, Red Dead Redemption 2 won the Critics' Choice at the Golden Joystick Awards last week.
Hooray.
Hooray for the game.
Yeah.
We were there, which is why the show didn't happen. We were there celebrating that and other things, and we had the show to put on itself. But yeah, the critics, who all voted in the Golden Joystick Awards, voted Red Dead Redemption 2 Game of the Year.
Yeah, I think it's well deserved as well. I don't know about you, but easily my personal game of the year, so it's not really a huge surprise.
No.
It has been a very good year for games. You know, you've got God of War, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I always had an inkling it was going to win in that section, and I'm not surprised. I think Rockstar deserve all the praise. So
yeah, it was actually the only award that they won. They were up for Ultimate Game of the Year, which was won by Fortnite. Controversially, some people would say.
Yeah.
Because although that game did come out in 2017.
Well, it's technically not even out yet.
Well, no, still in early access. It's hard to argue that this year hasn't been the year that it's exploded. It's everywhere now.
Yeah, I think it's defined 2018 in terms of just the massive cultural impact it's had. So yeah. I'm not surprised.
No.
Democracy in action, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and all of those awards, the Ultimate Game of the Year was public voted.
Yeah.
So it's down to what got the most votes. And Fortnite tweeted quite a few times about, hey, if you want to vote for us, go here.
Yeah.
So, they've won by being the most popular game in the world. And it's good. But anyway, that's a side note. We actually made a Critics' Choice video for the Golden Joystick Awards. So if you didn't catch it, we can show you that now.
Wake him up a little! My money, my life, me. I wasn't good enough. Everything we has in Blackwater. Where's our money? I think it's time for the train. Arthur!
Don't make me beg you, Arthur.
Just make sure they don't send no folk after us.
This is God's own country, and I feel I'm in purgatory.
What choice have we got? Gentlemen, it is time to make something of ourselves.
Don't get what's famous confused with what's true.
One more big score, we got enough money to lose. What do you think?
Okay, so that's Red Dead at the Golden Joysticks. Little bit to talk about now in terms of online. Now, we're still expecting this to come out within the time period that Rockstar said, which was November. So,
yeah.
that gives them about a week.
It's getting awfully close.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll see that sometime soon. There have been a couple of leaked screenshots, one of which shows one of those jail carts travelling under a bridge. Now, we know that from the trophy list, the first trophy you get for online is called Breakout, which suggests you're going to be breaking out of somewhere. There's obviously other places on the map that you could break out of. There's a penitentiary across the water, and there's Fort Wallace. So how do you think it would start? What do you think would be a good start to Red Dead Online?
Yeah, I think it would be good to start with. I mean, a lot of great games have started with a prison breakout, Skyrim, and actually a lot of the Elder Scrolls games. And I think it would be good to, from the get-go, Rockstar have said that they're trying to combine story and multiplayer in a more seamless way. So I think it would be good to start with something that feels quite story-led and narrative-based. How did GTA Online start? I can't remember.
Flew in to Los Santos
Yeah.
and met Lamar in a car,
right,
and then
yeah.
he took you to his drug dealer.
So in the same way, it would be nice if we meet some, characters from the story. I mean, we don't really know where it's going to be set in terms of the timeline. So, who will be there? Who will we meet? Will we meet the whole gang? Will we meet just a few parts of the gang? But yeah, the idea of a prison breakout strikes me as a good one, because will then be starting from nothing. I assume you'll just be an escaped convict with no money, and then it's all about working your way to the top, which is how competitive multiplayer is, should always be.
I guess speaking of the way that GTA 5 started with you going and meeting a character from the single player game, it could be that the breakout is somebody, one of the gang that we know of, or one of the NPCs in Red Dead single player breaks you out of prison for some reason, and then takes you to your first mission marker and says, right, here's all the activities, off you go.
Yeah.
Whether that's a jail as we know of, if you break out of the penitentiary, you're gonna have to row a boat for quite a long time.
Yeah, I mean, they could make that a cutscene, but
Yeah.
knowing Rockstar, they probably won't. So
No, true.
yeah.
So I guess travelling in one of those little carts makes sense, and then they could put you right next to Valentine or somewhere that's familiar to everyone, and then you start off there. We do know you're going to probably have to build camps and things in the world, so it could be very much mirror the single player game as your first camp is.
I mean, obviously in GTA Online, the characters would contact you mainly by your mobile, by texting you and stuff. Obviously they don't have a mobile in the Wild West, so I'm curious how you'd be in contact with those characters as well. Would they have the letter system that Dutch's gang have?
Yeah, I guess it would have to be the post office.
Yeah.
You just get a
Which might be
notification
quite
saying
annoying,
you've
but-
got a new post.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Oh, back to the post office.
yeah. Or I guess if it's a bit more seamless, you could wanted posters would go up around
Yeah.
the things for bounty hunting missions
Yeah.
around the towns and cities. Who knows? Hopefully we'll find out pretty soon.
Yeah.
So that's the brief summary of online that we've got. We're now going to talk about Chapter 5 and what happens in that chapter and everything contained in it. So you haven't got there yet. This is your spoiler warning to turn off and come back at a later date. Okay, for all of those of you that are still here, let's talk about Chapter 5. So, it's obviously a massive departure from what we're doing in the rest of the game. You go to Guarma.
Guarma, fictional island in the Caribbean, I guess.
Yeah, just off the American coast-ish.
Near Cuba or something.
Yeah, because they were, Dutch talks about a lot about going to Cuba and other
Tahiti,
places.
yeah.
But they end up on this island. And I just think it's worth talking about because it seems to have split opinion about whether people like it or not. Some people really like it. Other people really don't like it.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
I didn't mind it. Obviously the closest parallel we have is Mexico in Red Dead Redemption 1. Ever since this game was announced, people have been asking, will we go to Mexico? Will we have a thing like going to Mexico? And this is basically Rockstar's answer. It's even got that bit where, I think it's when you're leaving rather than when you're arriving, but where the song sort of plays in the background and you're just leaving it. The parallels are very clear. It does feel like a massive departure from everything we've played so far. It doesn't even feel like a Western anymore. It feels more like Tomb Raider or Uncharted. It's very action heavy, which is, I think, was one of the points of contention people had. It felt very just you were forced down a very specific path. You didn't really get to explore much of the island. And then obviously once you leave the island, you don't ever get to go back, which that's probably my biggest gripe with it, because if you hadn't caught, I think there's 2 animal species there.
I think there's 2 species, yeah.
And if you hadn't got them, and they're quite hard to catch, you can't get them ever again. So it's just oh, okay, so I guess I won't be able to 100% this game. I literally can't do it unless I reload a save from, ages ago.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Start again.
I mean, yeah. So I think that was an oversight. But in terms of like the story, I think it was important. Like, this is a turning point for the gang. This is when you can see Dutch like start to unravel and unfold in like quite scary ways. This is when you start to catch on that something's not right with Arthur in terms of his health. And by the end of it, I think, you know, Arthur literally says like, our luck's taken a turn, like permanently. And you can tell like the mood is not good at Cam. Like, everything's just a little bit more sinister. Using this sort of fictional, you know, Cuban style island as a linchpin for that was quite a clever storytelling device.
The stuff that happened on the island was very similar to the Mexico. Like, you were basically in the middle of a civil war again.
Yeah.
So yeah, like as you say, it's quite similar, and it was all that very much like, oh, are we gonna go to Mexico? Are we gonna go somewhere else? And I was like, oh, we're gonna go somewhere else on the boat. I wonder where it is. Oh, it's not Mexico.
Yeah.
It's a different place that we've never seen before. I thought, like, it was actually maybe one of my favourite bits of the game.
Really? Okay.
Only because it was so different.
Yeah.
And have that cutscene where you wake up on a beach
Yeah.
and have to walk. I thought it was like amazing and really different and really good. But because you, as you say, you don't go back there, like, all of that environmental work and all, because it's like a massive jungle.
Yeah.
And it's like really
And you don't get
dense.
to explore any of it really. You're forced down a very specific path. Like, I guess that makes sense because this is all about the fact that, you know, the gang have lost their freedom now. They're just being sort of continually hounded by the government until they've got nowhere left to go. And so thematically it makes sense, but, you know, suddenly, like, I don't have my horse, I can't go to the shops, I can't, you know, go off the beaten track and find these crazy little things. Like, I have to do, you know, a handful of very specific story missions, and then before I know it, I'm back, you know, back in Lemoyne. So I can understand why people might not like it, but I do agree with you in that it just feels so different to what we've played before. And I am glad that they chose this instead of Mexico, because I think just going back to Mexico would make it feel like a bit of a retread.
Yeah. Now, when I was playing it, I was thinking, wow, like, this is so different. Like, what could this mean for what Rockstar are thinking of or trying to do? Sure, it might just be another environment, but there's lots of talk about what Rockstar are going to do next. Obviously, they're going to do GTA 6 at some point. Mm-hmm. That's probably a given. But after that, they don't have many other games that they can look at. The talk is of Bully.
Yeah, no table tennis, unfortunately.
Probably not.
No.
So yeah, Bully or Canis Canem Edit, depending on where you live, has been like, oh, that's rumoured, maybe they'll do Bully next. Mm-hmm. They could do Bully next, but I was wondering when, just because of all of the graphical fidelity and the way that bit played out, it felt very much like a pirate game.
I was literally
stage.
thinking that when you wake up on that shore, that is almost like, it feels exactly like Assassin's Creed Black Flag, because that's literally how that game opens. You sort of wake up after a shipwreck on this tropical island that you have no idea where you're going. That is the game. And obviously Uncharted 4, there's that, you know, very clear moment. But I agree, like, just the idea of a Rockstar pirate game already, like, excites me.
Yeah, and I was wondering if this was like, you know, a tiny test to see, hey, if we were going to do a pirate game, or that's one of our concepts for something we could do in the future, let's just try it for an hour and see what we can do with it, see what it looks like. And if you take that section out and say, this is the vertical slice of a Rockstar pirate game, you could probably look at it and go, wow, that would be really good.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the tech in Red Dead is basically pirates. Like, everyone wears hats who were in pirates. Horses were around at the time.
They were. So the weaponry is sort of similar.
Yeah, and graphically, obviously, that jungle section's like very piratey. It's very like, if you watch any of Black Sails, like, it just reminded me of Nassau and all of that stuff.
There's even parrots, aren't there?
There's even parrots. All they need is boats and boat combat, which I say all they need. Like, that's quite a big deal. I guess the problem would be that, like you say, Ubisoft's already done that kind of thing. But I think a Rockstar take on it would just be like so different.
Yeah.
And you take all of the things that are in Red Dead, like secrets and mysteries and treasure hunting, and NPCs that are just in the world interacting. Like, you go into a bar, you find a pirate who's like, oh, I've lost my gold, here's half a map, and then you have to just go and find it.
Sense, doesn't it.
Like, all the stuff seems to like fit into each other. Now, obviously, this is just pure speculation, but I would love it if Rockstar went, for our next game that isn't GTA, it's going to be a brand new IP and it's going to be some kind of pirate-based
Yeah,
game.
and I think they could distinguish themselves from Assassin's Creed in the sense that this whole like scene on Guarma it has like a darkness to it. Like there's some really dark moments. Like I'm thinking of the bit where you get kidnapped.
That
or
kidnapping
like,
bit, yeah.
And then it's literally about 2 minutes of you just getting punched in the face, and then you're sort of rescuing these other like prisoners. If they sort of took because Ubisoft has always taken a more light-hearted sort of almost fantasy approach to it. If they were like, no, we're going to shine a light on like the real darknesses and depravities of this period, it might be something, you know, really special. And it's a way that they could, you know, differentiate themselves from that mold that everyone's so familiar with.
And there's loads of famous pirates as well. You could have, you know, all of the people from Blackbeard to Long John Silver, like all of those like takes on those could exist in that world. And even if we're going into even more spoilerific territory, like there were lots of diseases around on ships as well.
Yeah.
And having to
like scurvy and stuff like that.
Yeah, and obviously they've played out that, oh, you might have a disease card, but if you're going back on the balancing of health and drinking and all that, you could be like, oh, don't want to get scurvy, better eat some oranges.
Yeah.
Or whatever the mechanic is. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of parallels that you can draw between if you were going to make a pirate game, you could just lift certain things from Red Dead and drop it in.
Like the whole gang system could easily be replaced by your pirate crew.
Yeah.
And you just go back on the ship instead of, you know, back to your hideout. Only this time I guess it's like more mobile, but yeah, you're right, there's so many opportunities there. Even just the idea of Rockstar having this whole new space that is the ocean, and the idea of underwater exploration, thinking about it now, it does make a lot of sense. So hopefully this is more than just a brief excursion in the world of Red Dead Redemption. Although I do think, even if it is just that, it still makes sense for the sake of this story and this game.
True. I mean, even talking about underwater stuff, I'm still banging on about this, yes. Like GTA 5 had, you know, that was all underwater ships and stuff.
Yeah.
So you could combine the two games together, make a giant pirate game. So Rockstar, if you're listening, please make your next game.
I don't know what you call it.
Just pirates would be fine. I think that maybe already exists.
My one question is whether Guarma will feature in Red Dead Online. Like, because I remember like people had found when that map originally sort of leaked, it was there, and it was a lot bigger than what we've seen so far. So maybe it's for story DLC or like a multiplayer expansion, but I do wonder whether they've still got plans for Guarma in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, talking about online, like I wasn't sure whether even like New Austin would be in online, and it might just be. I mean, it's so big. That's the problem. If you make all of that an online,
you'll barely
thing,
see any other people, would you?
Which is maybe compelling. Maybe that's good that it's just you and your gang for the most part.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see what the map looks like.
I mean, you have to guess that it's going to be the same as the single player one, but whether there's certain bits of it that are locked off, we'll have to wait and see. Okay, well, thank you very much, Alex. That's Red Dead 2 o'clock for this week. We'll be back next Friday at the normal time of 2 p.m. Until then, you can follow us on Twitter at Red Dead 2 o'clock. We will see you next week at 2 p.m.